The morning began with its usual rhythm, the city waking up to the familiar symphony of urban life. I stepped out into the street, the comforting aroma of my coffee blending with the city's scents. The sun hung low, a golden orb casting long shadows across the bustling sidewalks. Yet, something felt amiss, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that I couldn't quite place. As I navigated through the throngs of people, a strange phenomenon caught my eye. The sunlight, usually so vibrant and illuminating, seemed dimmer, as if filtered through a smoky lens. I paused, observing the way the light played differently on the faces around me, casting an unusual pallor on their skin. The chirping of birds sounded distant, muffled, adding to the surreal quality of the morning. By midday, the changes became more pronounced. The sun, typically a source of brilliance and warmth, now appeared as a faded, distant sphere in the sky. It was as if something had sapped its vitality, leaving a mere ghost of its former glory. The light that reached the earth was weak, struggling to penetrate an inexplicable gloom that was slowly enveloping the city. The streets, alive with the midday rush, descended into confusion. People stopped in their tracks, gazing skyward with a mixture of curiosity and dread. The usual cacophony of city sounds was now punctuated by anxious murmurs and the occasional cry of alarm. The buildings, once illuminated by the sun's glow, now stood as stark silhouettes against a darkening backdrop. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I began documenting the bizarre events unfurling around me. My camera became my companion, capturing the unsettling transformation of the city. The birds, once playful and spirited, now flew in erratic patterns, as if disoriented by the dimming light. The long, twisted shadows cast by the buildings created an otherworldly landscape, turning the familiar into something alien and unrecognizable. As the afternoon waned, the situation grew more dire. The sun, now a mere shadow of itself, seemed unable to fend off the encroaching darkness. The city, a vibrant hub of life and activity, succumbed to a growing sense of unease. Streetlights flickered on, casting their artificial glow in a feeble attempt to hold back the night that was falling far too soon. Amidst the chaos, I noticed a disturbing pattern. There were gaps in the crowds, spaces where people should have been but weren't. It was as if individuals were being plucked from existence, leaving no trace behind. These disappearances went largely unnoticed, lost in the greater turmoil of the city's plight. I sought answers from every conceivable source. Academics and scientists were baffled, unable to provide any logical explanation for the phenomenon. Religious leaders spoke in hushed tones of prophecies and divine retribution, while conspiracy theorists whispered of shadowy government experiments and cosmic catastrophes. As darkness enveloped the city, the lines between day and night blurred into obscurity. The once familiar streets now lay shrouded in an impenetrable gloom. It was in this surreal and unnerving landscape that I received the call. A voice, tinged with fear and urgency, beckoned me to a secluded part of the city. Promises of answers lured me into the heart of the unknown, my footsteps echoing on the desolate streets. The journey to the meeting point was like traversing a different realm. The streets, once teeming with life, were now eerily desolate. The faint hum of the city was gone, replaced by a silence so profound it seemed to echo in my ears. As I arrived at the designated location, a dilapidated warehouse on the city's outskirts, the sense of isolation was overwhelming. The building stood alone, a forgotten relic in a forgotten part of the city, its walls scarred by time and neglect. The only sound was the gentle rustling of wind through the abandoned streets, carrying with it a chill that seeped into my bones. I waited, shrouded in shadows, when a figure emerged from the darkness. The informant was a gaunt individual, their face etched with lines of fear and worry. In hushed tones laced with paranoia, they spoke of a secret government project. A reckless experiment in bending the fabric of space-time, an experiment that had fractured the very nature of our reality. The details were scarce, shrouded in the informant's fractured narrative. Yet, the implications were clear. The sun's light was being warped, twisted away from our world, leaving us in this perpetual twilight. The informant's words were desperate, filled with a guilt that seemed to consume them. But before I could probe further, the air was filled with a low, ominous humming. It seemed to emanate from the very darkness that surrounded us, a sound that vibrated with an otherworldly quality. The informant's eyes widened in terror, and with a final, panicked warning. "They are coming." They disappeared into the night, leaving behind a scattering of cryptic notes. The humming grew in intensity, a resonant sound that seemed to fill the air, vibrating through the ground and into my very being. It was a sound that spoke of ancient, unseen forces, of things beyond our understanding. Clutching the informant's notes, I fled, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. The streets were a forest of shadows as I ran, the humming a constant companion in the darkness. The city, once a vibrant testament to human achievement, now lay dormant, its buildings like tombstones marking the death of daylight. I reached my apartment, the familiar walls a small comfort against the unfathomable events unfolding outside. The notes, cryptic and disjointed, hinted at a reality far more terrifying than any conspiracy or prophecy. They spoke of the sun's light not just being blocked, but diverted, redirected to an unknown destination, an unthinkable purpose. As I pieced together the fragments of information, a chilling realization dawned upon me. The darkness was not merely the absence of light, but a presence. An entity, sentient and vast, that had been awakened or brought into our world by the failed experiment. My mind raced with questions, each more unsettling than the last. What were the true intentions of this entity? What happened to those who disappeared into the darkness? And most importantly, how could we restore the sun's light? The day the world turned black was not an end but a beginning of a journey into the unknown, a journey to confront the darkness and uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be.